Hi everyone, welcome to Watercolor Wednesday. I am Bonnie Krebs, creator of Watercolor the Art Impressions Way. And this week's project is a little bunny on a stool. This would be great for a little child's room or maybe an invitation or card for that little one. So I'm going to show you how to put this together. Okay, so we're going to use the wooden chair, the mini set, and we're just going to use the base of the chair, just this part right here. These stamps are really versatile. We're going to use the two field grasses, the right and the left. We're going to use this little bunny that's up on his haunches, the long stem that's part of the flower cart. And you know, when I use these long stems, remember you can use whatever long stems you want. These are all really versatile, so use what you have. We're going to use the grass, the large grass, and we're going to use this broadleaf foliage right here. And in the new watercolor flower set, this is flower set 2, we're going to use this little one. Looks like a little circle of hearts. Okay, so let's get started. We're going to use the chair, and we're just going to use part of it. So that's the great thing about using markers, is that we can just ink the parts that we want to use. So I am just inking the base of the chair here, and I'm actually going to just take off the back. So I'm just going to rub this off. So you can either rub this off like I do, or you can just not ink it if that's easier for you. So I'm going to stamp it on my watercolor paper just like that. And you can see I've got the back missing, and that's going to be easier for me to line up this little bunny on here. So I'm going to use the positioner now with the little bunny. Make sure that I get this in the right place. I'm going to ink this with a sepia. So use the side of your marker. It's much easier to ink the stamp that way. And then we're going to put this up in the corner of the positioner. So right into the corner. And then I can take that now and place this exactly where I want it. And that looks pretty good right there. So I'm going to put this back. And I'm just going to ink this little bunny just really softly. This is a very light pastel image, so we don't need to have really dark lines. And I think sometimes because we're stampers and we're used to just stamping things to make sure we get the image down right, we press too hard. And it looks like we're kind of mashing that stamp down into the paper. So we don't want to do that. Just a really light touch. Now you can come back over here and just continue this line back here. Just put that back in. And if you see that you're missing any lines here, you can put those back in as well. Remember, this is the same ink. So the features, make sure those are in really dark. So the little eye, make sure you can see that really well. Okay, so let's move on to the next step, and that would be to pull the color out of the lines. So we're going to dip the brush in water, and we're going to start out by just dragging this color out where it's the darkest. So you can see there's a little angle here, and this part of the chair goes back. So that's going to be the darkest. And under this lip here, it's kind of a lip that's hanging out over the top. That's going to be dark also. Remember to stay inside of those parallel lines so that you don't cross over the lines. In this case, they're actually more vertical. Pull out the color from these lines that are very close together. Clean your brush off now. Make sure you don't have too much color because the little bunny is going to be pretty light. So let's pull some of this color out here. Remember, the face is going to be the lightest. And if you bring this color around his little cheek, that's going to kind of pop his little cheek out. And this little bunny is contoured. So, you know, remember where we add that highlight in, the area that's closest to us. When you leave this little tummy white, we're giving a contour to this little character. So it's always a good idea to do that. Anytime you color anything in solid, remember, it's going to look flat. Okay, so that's about all we need to do right here. Let's go on to the next step, and that would be to add our grasses in. So we've got a left and a right here. So let's ink those in the green. And this time I'm using a number 32. This is a laurel green. It's a really pretty green. It's very light and pastel. I love it for projects like this. And we only need to stamp it a couple of times. So right next to this little stool. And let's grab the large grass then too. This is from the foliage set. Let's grab this and get this grass in also. So we're going to just walk this in. And I'm gonna ink that again with a little darker color. This is the pine green, and I'm just gonna ink this once more just to give it a little depth here. It's kind of fun to use two colors on these. Just gives us another dimension, especially when you're using these light pastel colors. So we're gonna add some water to it here. Super easy. Just like that. And now we're going to go ahead and put some sky in. So I'm going to do this first because I'm going to come over the top with some foliage. So just like this, and the flowers over the top. So it's a really pastel looking image. So I'm going to start with the sky in the background. So I'm going to mix a couple of colors. This is the number 17 Steel Blue. And this is the number 100 Sapphire. So we're going to mix those two colors together. Make sure you get enough water. When you're doing a sky like this, you want to brush it in, and most of the time we're controlling the color, and so we pinch off our brush to make sure that we don't get it too wet. But in this case, we want to make sure we get it wet enough. So make sure you get enough water on there. And start out very light. Stay away from these dark lines, so stay away from the sepia. You want to make sure that you don't touch that to your brush because that will bleed out into the blue. So just brush this on, just get it in here. It's going to be really, really light. So cute. And just kind of brush it in. Remember the sky especially, it's just the idea of things, so it doesn't have to be concrete. And don't drag that sky clear out from edge to edge and top and clear to the top. Just try to keep it in the area where your image is. Okay, so I've got this sky in. This looks pretty good. And I can actually put just a little bit down below here where this chair is. Just a little bit down in here. Okay, so let's go on to the next step, and that would be to put our long stem flowers in. So I've got those right here. I'm going to use that light color again, so I'm going to use the Steel Blue and just ink the blooms. So easy. I'm going to use that Laurel Green again and just ink the stem. And remember, this is a repeat, so we're going to stamp this a bunch of times. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Dip our brush, and you can see how light this is. Just super light. Okay, let's do the next side. So I'm going to ink this one now. And just do it again. And you know, you don't have to get all of these. So you could, if you wanted to just stamp a few, you could just ink 1 or 2 of these blooms. Just use the stem. 1, 2, 3. That looks pretty good. Add our water to it. You can see we have that dark one in the front. You can always add a little color too from your palette. So if you see that maybe you don't have enough color on some of these, just add a little more to it from your palette. So easy to do. Okay, so let's ink that large foliage now. So this one, and we don't need the whole thing. Just gonna kind of ink the tips. And I want to show you this too because I'm always saying that watercolor is the idea of things, but really you don't need to necessarily continue every image. So you can just show a tree growing in here on the side without actually stamping in that whole thing. So we get the idea that this is foliage growing here, that there's a tree next to this little bunny without actually showing that whole thing. So stamp that in and then just add some water. So easy. Just like that. Let's put a little background in here. So I'm going to use that Laurel Green again, and I'm going to add it onto my palette. And I'm just going to brush in a little background. So just a little hill. So just start over here to the side and just kind of drag this color over. and just fill it in. Just so that we can see a little background behind here. So fun to do this. It's not intimidating. It's not scary. And once you start doing it, you get your confidence and you'll realize it's just nothing to it. Okay, that looks pretty good. Let's add a little color now to the bunny. And I'm going to use the number 6 brown. And you could actually leave him as he is too. You could add a little more sepia to it. You could add some gray to it. Up to you. This is a really warm brown. It looks really good for these little characters. And we're going to start applying this color where it's the darkest, so that would be on the side. And even in these little tiny lines where you have these little characters, make sure you don't cross those lines. Drag this little cheek over. This is what I mean by popping that little cheek out. You bring that color over right under the eye. You can see that just pops his little cheek out. This is a process, so take your time. Your brush is very dry. This area right here is going to be the lightest, where his little face is. Leave his little belly white, and just gradually add this color on. You can always come back and add a little more color. Just better to do it in stages. This little ear back in the back will be really dark. And under here. Okay, that looks pretty good. Let's put just a little shadow on there, and we can do that with the blues that we have. Let's just add a little more of the number 86. That would be the African violet, so make that just a little bit darker. I love that you can mix the colors on the palette. That just makes such a difference because most of the time you don't have quite the exact color that you're looking for, and to be able to just mix it yourself makes a big difference. We can actually add a little of this color back in here too. Just a little shadow. This would be really dark under here. So let's just put a little of this blue under here. And then just blend it out. Okay, one more thing to do, and that's to add the little tiny butterflies that are up here by his nose. And we're going to make those out of the little circle of hearts. So we're just going to ink 2 of these. There's two little ones that look just like hearts next to each other. And so I'm going to ink those 2 only. And stamp that right by his little nose. And if you take the fine tip of your purple, that was purple that I used, or the violet, and just make a tiny little line right next to them, you have a set of cute little butterflies that are on there. So let's sign and date. And this little image is done, ready to go in a frame or on a card to someone special. So be sure and make this for someone that you love and give it away. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up, and I will see you next week.